Nobody watches this anyway.
Oh, yeah, right.
Not really. Not when you're live. I get a couple.
I get a lot.
Yeah, you get more than I do. So if I started live streaming, there might be one or two show up. So you just want lives. You hear my phone?
Yeah. All right. I am live tonight over from Dan's house. We're going to post the link. This is a Zoom session. So if you got some questions for Dan or whatever, come in and ask him. Oh, shoot. All right, let me turn this down. I need to go get that down. There's a lot of windows open. We got to get Zoom open, and I need the invite link. Okay, we're going to participants. We're going to invite, copy the invitation, and we're going to go to Stunt Hangar. We're going to go to at the bench. Get that rolling. So home,
You got any comments yet?
not yet, but we will in a second. Log in. Steve Berry, I bet, is already watching. Come on, log in. There we go. Got a message. Read your messages. Let's see what that's all about. Tank, flap, and elevator. Gary Markham. Guy Markham.
You want a stool?
Yeah, I would like to buy a 1 4 ounce and 1 5 ounce, and possibly a 3/32 platform unbent with its 2 hinge pocket swivels. Okay, no rush. Thank you for. Yeah, I'll do it for you, Frog. Okay, now we want to go home, and we're going to go to at the bench. A night with Danny. Oh, what's going on here? There we are. A new topic. Live stream. LIVEAN night with Dan W. And we'll paste this. Paste. And post. Where's your stool?
It's over at John's. It's over there in the basement, John's.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are you up and running?
no, not yet.
Okay. Let's see here. We want to go here. We want to look and see how many are watching already. We got 7 watching. I started watch 3 minutes ago.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so this is look at the 2 old guys you wrote in there. Yeah, this is a night with I'm over Dan Winship's house. He worked on my perky mold. Looks super nice. He did that while I was playing at Brodak. If you'd like to join this stream, go to at the bench on Stunt Hangar, and let's see. We got 8 watchers, but we got 0 thumbs up. What's the deal? Be sure to hit that like button so we got some reach. Let's see here.
So in the drop down menu here, it's got all these choices. I should put comedy.
I don't know. I just do entertainment
Yeah,
or
okay.
how to in style.
I'm just kidding you.
Yeah.
We'll put education.
Let's see if the sound's working. Yeah, it's working. I don't want to get that feedback loop going.
So I got to remember, I got to come up here and do the chat. So then
Yeah, you can dock that chat too.
Yeah, right here. But won't be anybody.
Well, we got eight watching now,
Yeah.
but we got no chatters. Hey, give us a comment so we can talk about something.
So is this going to be a Zoom meeting?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so they can jump on in here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they can on yours, but
right.
I'll be able to see them on this side.
Okay.
Grab that mold and that birding box and all that. Now, do you still have my original fuselage?
Yeah.
I know you guys aren't really into perkies or whatever, but this was not a perky exercise. This was an exercise to learn how to make a full-size stunner, and we're going to get there. I had made, oh, that's the box. I had made these molds. First, I made the plug, and then I pulled a couple molds off of. Well, I had catastrophic lockup because I have no clue what I'm doing. I mean, the molds turned out okay, but I'm afraid that you know, if you want a good product, you got to have a good mold to start with. So I brought it over to Dan, and let's grab that plug there. Not that, the plug. So Dan, hey Rico, like giving streams all working great. So I had while I was at Rodak, Dan was kind enough to make a new plug, one that wasn't bad. And it's super slick. It's nice. Uh-oh, a little
Yeah, that's a hickey in it.
paint hickey.
Yeah, I buffed it and it really didn't transfer into the mold.
It don't matter.
But yeah, that was the only thing on that plug,
Just the top. Yeah.
I think.
No. Try it. Let's see. You need to mark it, which is the top, which is the bottom. It might be tough to get in and out of this thing. HTUR 250 1063. That's the hardener.
So basically on the back, it has a surface coat, which is a 302,
Yeah.
and it mentions the cloth. So that way you know what's in the mold.
There it is. So he's let's see if there's somebody come in yet. I don't think so. This is an oddball night to be Zoom meeting, but let's see here. Anybody can join. All you gotta do is click on the link in Stunt Hangar. So Danny's in this comfortable chair. He kicked his cat out of off the lawnmower.
I got my air ride shop seat right over here.
So if I push these together, I mean,
And then you gotta probably pry them out.
yeah,
Yeah.
super nice mold. So we're on our way for the perkies. Look at the quality of the inside of this. I mean, it's leave it to the pros. When you when you screw up, leave it to the pros.
Well, I'm not a pro, but
Better than me. Now these been waxed, you say, right?
couple coats, they need more.
All I have is part all
Yeah,
paste wax.
that's good. Just more part all paste wax, another 3 or 4 coats.
How about that chem leaf stuff? Don't forget, I need some of that. This guy's wanting me to make tanks for him.
Yeah, the chem lease would be all right, but the mold's too green.
Okay,
So what would happen is if you don't wax and PVA it and you don't
lock up.
yeah. So if you take that mold and you post cure it up to about 350, 400, then you could use Chemleys, but you can use that mold. It's cooked for like 8 hours at 110, so it's just starting to get where it needs to be. But it's perfect for room temp cures with PVA and
yeah, I see what you mean. You change the parting line so it wouldn't
yeah,
lock up.
yeah,
But it doesn't, does it change the thrust line?
no,
Okay.
no, that's all the same. So that line is one continuous straight line off of the thrust.
Okay.
Yeah. So what had to happen? I'll explain it a little bit.
Yeah, show them or show your camera, whatever.
So basically, there's no way around it, but the thrust line has to be in the center of the spinner, obviously. So when the thrust line's at the center of the spinner, that means your high point has to be right here on the center of the spinner. Originally, they wanted, on the plans, they wanted to move it off center of the thrust line. So I kept it on the thrust line because if I moved the parting line where it was on the plan for a datum line, it would have been a negative draft angle. And that would have caused the part to lock up. And let's say that you need that negative draft angle or whatever, what would have to happen is you'd have to come and make a 3-part mold. You'd have to come back this way and you'd have to split the mold this way and then this way. And that's how you get around it. But then you'd have to make a 3-part mold.
Yeah.
So I thought the way you were going to configure everything, we just went right on the thrust line.
That's perfect.
So the thrust line is right down the center of this mold, right back to here. So
see, the motor mounts will sit right on that top line, on that parting line, on the thrust line.
right. So yeah, and really, I mean, you could put that motor either right side up or inverted that way. You know, you could just wherever you put your mouse.
All right, well, it's going to be inverted.
Yeah.
This half of the, let's see, the motor I'd say is, I got a motor out there, wrong one, but this part right here, just ahead of the wing will be a fuel tank. This is going to be made out of EPON.
Yeah.
And by the feel of that bell crank you made, you might want to show them that.
Yeah.
I think it should be 6 layers or 5 anyway.
Yeah. Another thing, you can see it like a shadow line right here where the parting line was.
Yeah.
Right here. You can sort of see it. But yeah, on the bell crank, I experimented with some carbon fiber and I wasn't sure how thick to make it. I knew I wanted it as thick as the old one. So I went with 6 layers. And then of course, when you lay 6 layers of carbon over your mold, and then you take the 6 and 6, basically you come up with 12 layers when you put the 2 sandwiches together.
Show them the bell crank. This is the new and improved bell crank over the ones that I've been selling for them.
But basically, I don't have a mic on me, but you know, whatever the thickness of the old one was, this is a little bit thicker. I could probably back off a little bit. We'll destruction test this and see where we're at. But this was 7 grams without the lead outs, and this is 10 without the bushing. But so there could be more taken out of here depending on how well it withstands the pull test. So
Get close up.
the standard rule of thumb with cable is 1/5 the operating, 1/5 the operating window of whatever you're using is 1/5 of your breaking strength. So technically, if you have a cable that breaks at 100, your working load should be no more than 20.
Yeah. Okay, these are the bell cranks that I've been selling. I made one, he made 1,000.
Maybe over a bunch of years.
Yeah. So there's those bell cranks. They weigh 7 grams. You'll notice how the lead out is hooked around with a bushing this way. This new design is a sandwich type with a fork in it, so that you can put a bolt in here and have these bushed, maybe even some of those teardrops on that bolt, so it should be smoother,
Yeah.
less drag.
Well, yeah, the bolt or the pin that goes through there will have a button on it. So it'll be a round button that actually pivots on the post.
Just shoulder bolt.
No, not a shoulder bolt, but there'll be an actual round button. So you're gonna have a bolt or a pin.
Oh, a teardrop.
No, it's gonna go through a button that has a groove cut around it.
Right, a teardrop. It's like that, like Brett Buckbook, right?
Yeah, but it'll be round. Well, it could be a teardrop if you machine it that way, but anyway, the bolt goes through the bushing or the button, I'd call it. And the bleed outs would go through the groove of that,
Right.
come back and terminate. So, but yeah, this is that's what half of the bell crank looks like.
Starts
like
out.
that. So,
But this is a really cool idea. You do lose 3 grams, you give up 3 grams, but I kind of think this is probably going to be pretty good. But I don't think you need this much meat in here either, right here.
you don't. A lot of this in the middle, that could be cleaned up and you might be able to get rid of 2 layers in there. So instead of 12, you might do 5 and 5, 10. So the thing is, that's hand laid, once you pre-preg this with a higher modulus carbon, or you just, go right up the scale as far as what it'll handle. So this would be on the bottom end of, what I want to say, the workability or the weight. And, you go with pre-preg and water jet cut, and you could do a lot of things. So it's not going to get any worse than 10, and it'll only get better, I think. So, by looking at this, and I'd almost put it in my airplane. I wouldn't actually sell it, or
I'd put it in mine.
yeah, I mean,
It's gonna be fine. Let me see the geometry on it. That's something.
well, the hole on that sample is drilled at 1 inch. This
Yeah.
is 9/10. The other beauty of
7/8 or 15/16 on that hole.
7/8 or 50.
Yeah. 7/8 for slow controls, 15/16 for fast.
Yeah, the other thing that might happen is, let's say these things go for sale. The hole is probably going to be drilled by the person getting the bell crank. So there'll be a scribe line or a etched line right there showing you where 90 is. And it might have a couple little tick marks where 1 inch or 9/10 or whatever, but and then just let the person with the bell crank drill the hole.
I got these wound up real good.
That's good. So anyway, that's what I've been working on. Where's all the other people on this Zoom meeting? I don't see any more faces.
Yeah, I want to see somebody in here. Click on the link at Stunt Hangar. This is an off night. It's not 7 o'clock normally. I'm on at 7, usually my time.
Yeah,
We're 8 minutes early.
8 minutes early. Plus, what is the day? I lost track. Is it Saturday?
Today is Saturday.
Yeah, that's throwing them off.
Yeah. So if they're gonna come on, if you guys have rung the bell for notifications, I don't expect anybody on right away. If you Daniel Berry Sports, yo, he's the yoer.
Okay.
So we'll just hang out here for a while, and pretty soon somebody come on and.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I like the tooling bar.
You can take it home. You can make wheel pan plugs out.
This is some neat stuff here. It's weird.
Yeah, I tried to cross-reference it. On the side of the board, it said 30-20 wren shape. It came out of a warehouse. It was scrap. It was sitting on a pallet. And it'd been there probably 35 years.
Where did you get this?
I got it for free.
When?
Well, when? About 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Huh.
Yeah,
Where at?
I'm not gonna tell you.
JT Composite.
Nope. Oh, it wasn't. I guarantee you 100% it wasn't there.
One of those places like the Hinge place and the,
Yeah, I mean, there's so many places around Indianapolis area that actually,
do something.
yeah, I mean, all the race teams and stuff. So,
Yeah, they probably bought a big block of this size of this
oh yeah, that's the way it comes.
table and put it into the
Yeah.
5-axis CNC machine, hit the button, and
Yeah.
out comes a car body.
Yeah, some of this stuff, I mean, it comes in big blocks, huge blocks. I mean, it might be 2 foot by 6 foot or 8 foot by, 4 or 6 inches thick. They make it all different dimensions.
The density of this is so nice. Like,
Yeah.
like a rock, but it carves like balsa, like
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. The problem with the blue foam was the blue foam was sort of spongy. So when you sand it, it's almost like it was giving. This sand's really crispy. So when you take that sandpaper and you go over it, and you can get more detail in this, it'll hold detail where the blue foam.
So you sand it with 80 grit or
Oh, no.
320,
You could
180?
you could do 120. It sands so easy. Let me show you here. You could do, let me back up. You could do 80. This is probably, what do you think that is? 320? It's wore out.
That's 100 probably. Do it on the edge there.
Got carbon in it. So and it razor plane's really nice. So if you've got this tooling board, you could use 80, but when it comes time to the final to get it pretty close, I just go with 320.
Yeah.
But razor plane is really nice. Let me see here. I got
Well, I cut it with an X-Acto knife last time I was over, and it felt like it was balsa wood.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? See how it peels off like wood?
Yeah. It's like
You're out of the camera.
just like carbon balsa wood. That'll be good. We'll do some banana wheel pants. I'll make some Tom Warden wheel pants.
Yeah.
They look like bananas.
I remember those.
I hadn't talked to Tom in 30 years, and I called him on the phone, and I guess he was dying at the time. He kind of passed away just like John, real quick. I know it got him. Oh, I know it got John too. I thought it was pancreatic cancer. No, liver cancer.
Yeah. Well, I remember you saying that.
But Tom, I said, Tom, will you draw me a set of wheel pants? And I'll be damned if they didn't come back to 69 banana wheel. They go,
Yeah.
they go way out like that.
Yeah.
I got them on my Continental. But that was the thing of the day,
Yeah.
I can't believe we don't have anybody on yet. Let's see how long we've been on. Let's see. We need to go here. And
Sure, you got a link for him. So I'm looking at my phone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Live stream with Sparky. There's Winship right there.
You got Perth, Western Australia.
Yeah, you got two. You got two watching on your channel, and we got my videos. Let's see here. Come on. Content. We're live. We're live. We got 21 views, 15 viewers now watching this. Let me turn this on. Oh, it's on. So I got 15 times
Yeah.
more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm usually good for one or two.
Yeah. I turn it on and give you a thumbs up.
And probably one or two of them are watching too.
No,
With two channels.
it don't count.
Yeah. This was a good old airplane.
The Cheerio.
This was a good one. I kept this around just for demo purposes.
Didn't you have that on the Winship models, the other channel,
The website.
the GeoCities?
Yeah, it was either this one or that one. I think it was that one. But I was looking through the drawer the other day and I found my plywood stencil.
Yeah,
I did that one.
that was all hand cut, right?
Hand cut. It was frisket. If you look real close,
You can see the knife marks in it.
see how it's not perfectly round.
Yeah. Well, that's how we did things back
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
that was-
90s.
For the 60s. Yeah,
That was a 90s airplane, right?
yeah. Let's see. 1992.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was those were good years for me. Yeah, I can finally move around the shop here. So,
Kinda. You need to
Yeah.
get the lawnmower out of the way.
you know what? If it's nice out, I back this lawnmower out, roll this bench back, it's like tons of
Or you just pack the lawnmower on the grass, take the bench,
Yeah.
roll it out there and then
yeah,
outside, but then you got all that heat.
yeah,
At least in here it's air conditioned.
yeah. Somewhat.
You had to drag that Argus down and finish that up.
That's a Mike Dietrich Cobra.
Cobra.
Now, N30 is what? N30 is 30 years.
Yeah, that's legal.
So yeah, this was published in flying model. But I can't remember the year, but it's probably close to 30, because I'll tell you what,
I'll guarantee it's 30 years old. It looks 30 years old, built 30 years ago.
hey, this has solid lead outs. It's got the Jack Sheeks technology lead outs in this thing. I gotta be careful. I don't want to put a hole in the wing. You know, hey, this has been hanging above the water heater for well, 30 years at least. But it's got the old silk fan,
Let's see what kind of silk fan it is. Oh,
KNS.
well, that's good stuff because it doesn't want to tear across
It's not
very.
bad. But anyway, look at the dust on it. Oh, here's my rudder. I thought I'd lost that.
Well, glued on there.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the
That's a nice airplane. What's it fit, Tiger?
try the controls.
I think I probably would fix that.
Yeah.
Get some cables on there.
Yeah. It's got the glass on the nose. Now it's drilled out for a
46.
FP40. Randy Smith reworked the FP40 for me. So I got the spinner, the muffler, I got everything I need. But since I got it so opened up, now would be a good time to get in there and see. I can probably get to those lead outs. Get rid of these and put cables in there.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking old school.
Oh shit! You got a nylon belt crank.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what is it, a SIG?
Yeah.
SIG or top one?
I tell you, I would get rid of that. I had that horn break on me.
Well, here's the thing, that nylon is probably pretty crispy.
Yeah, mine broke.
Yeah.
That's a nice airplane. I mean,
Yeah.
you did a nice job.
So
The cow kind of sucked in, but
yeah, that happens over 30 years.
yeah,
So I could shin that out. But
that's a nice airplane.
so I remember, I forget who, I think Bob Hunt told me this story. Mike Dietrich, he took the Cobra and he modified it enough to get a bubble canopy and maybe a couple things. So I think the Cobra was originally what, Steve Woolley?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sure Billy helped Mike out and they flew together. So they went to a local meet somewhere. And Mike beat Billy. And he was talking to Bill. He said that was the longest ride home. But, you know,
You know what I think I'd do with that airplane?
what's that?
I would, I'm not kidding either. If it was mine,
Yeah.
I would cut across this way, cut across this way, cut, take the
Oh, yeah.
canopy out and do the same on the bottom and replace that bell crank
Oh, yeah.
with
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah.
And where you are right there, it's 30 days away from flying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think either more silk span or probably
No.
poly span.
I would uncover this whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But
Polyspan takes too much dope. I mean, it's tough, but
just go back with fresh silk span.
yep.
The fuselage is all right, but
If we had the DC 540, we could spray it on there and have it done in a week.
yeah. But Billy was over here one day
We see the cow area.
and he said, "What's that hanging up there?"
That's a nice job.
I said, "Oh, it's a Dietrich Cobra." He said, "Well, get that down and finish it. It's a good airplane."
You're good woodwork on this.
Yeah, back when I knew what I was doing, I forgot everything.
Well, in order to like I haven't built an airplane now in what, 6 months?
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to figure it out again.
yeah.
And yes, we are getting ready to build balsa wood airplanes.
So anyway, I might revisit this thing.
I've got an Edge Southwick Skylark or a Tempest that I'm gonna build when I get home. We'll start doing that. So like I said, watch out. Southwick Skylark for classic or a Tempest for PA. I had to set the rudder in the wing again.
Yeah, see, where did I have that?
Yeah, it inside the wing.
Yeah. There we go. Put it right there where I can find it. I was looking the other day. I thought, man, I lost that rudder. I gotta build another one if I get it down.
It's pretty light too. I mean,
Yeah, it's crispy. But it's all right. It'd be good for an N30 event.
no, it's classic legal.
Okay.
N30 is 30 years old, so that would be 94, 95. And that's gotta be pre-70, isn't it?
No, not the Mike Dietrich one. Mike Dietrich, I think it's like 87, 89.
Then it is N30.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's Flying Models is when he came out with
Come on, you guys, somebody get in here and talk to us.
that. That's all right. They're busy.
Yeah, busy, all right.
Hey, I tell you, it's throwing them off.
It's the time and the day.
Yeah.
Hey, g'day from Perth, Western Australia. We need to see who's on your channel. Maybe it's the same guys.
How do you tell?
Get on your phone and look at your video and see what they've chatted and said.
Well, my chat will be right there on my OBS. So let me see here.
Let's turn that on here. You have nobody. You have 4 watching. We've been on almost a half an hour,
That's all right.
and we have no chatters in the chat room or in the live stream. Somebody's got to have something to say. You might as well take advantage of this because it ain't very often that Danny and I are in the same spot.
Same spot watching or over a 4 foot by 8 foot bench.
Yeah.
We're gonna go out to the diner for breakfast.
Yeah. We'll get us a ham, steak, and eggs. They got that there?
Oh yeah, I got ham here. It's pretty good. It says This one guy, COL 666.
Right, he's on my channel.
Looks like a museum quality piece of flying engineering.
Yeah,
That's on your channel.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's museum quality, all right.
Yeah.
Dinosaur.
Yeah. And then I got 4 gallons of thermoset UR 132 down there. I wanted to try it on these. And I thought, well, instead of doing all the layup, I might just build a box and pour a casting. But I thought, if you're only going to be gone a week, I don't have time to experiment
In
too
case it
much.
screws up.
Yeah, it's like I know this works, but I got 4 gallons of casting resin that's urethane. I'm going to get that out. I'll probably do like a bell crank mold just to see if it works. And I'll tell you what, if it works, it's early 90s.
Yeah.
It'd be 30 to 35-year-old stuff.
Well, that
And I've had epoxy come out of that warming box that old that's worked.
well that I haven't had it that old, but that one can of what do you 580 or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
That I bought that in 22 and it worked.
yeah. So is Brodak going on tomorrow too?
No,
That's
done.
it's done today. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, had me suspense. I thought Joe Gilbert was going to pull off the expert.
Yeah. Oh, everybody would have been mad.
Yeah.
That's probably why he didn't win, because everybody was going to get mad.
Uh, you know, you can sneak in a barn burner every once in a while with a ringmaster.
Well, he had everybody first round.
Yeah.
Yeah. Museum quality.
Nothing but the best junk in this shop.
Yeah. Yeah. We got different views, and your computer is slower. Look, you froze up the frame rate.
Well, heck yeah, my wife's probably watching the race in there or something. She's in there streaming sports.
Oh,
You're on this phone right here.
yeah.
You guys are having too much fun.
Oh, there we go, Bob Hunt.
Hi, Bob.
Yeah, on the way back through Indy, I decided to stop, spend the night here with Dan.
Yeah, I thought I overslept. I thought it was Monday night already.
No, we're just kind of kicking it.
Hey, Bob. Since
Yeah,
I
man,
got
how you doing, Dan?
good. Since I got you on here,
Yeah.
okay, we talked about this bell crank. So here's my thinking. Let me get my whiteboard. I'm going to show you something here.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. We got a whiteboard somewhere here.
The new and improved crank. I don't know if you're talking about.
Look at that. Show that up close to the camera. Yeah. I like it.
That's 12 layers of carbon. Here's the blank that comes out of a mold like this.
And you glue it together?
Yeah, and that's how I get the fork.
Gonna be nice, but you give up 3 grams.
Well, so far.
Yeah, he's gonna start whittling on it.
So I took this plate of aluminum and I beveled the edge of it here. And when you lay this up, the carbon goes on top of this beveled aluminum plate on top of plate glass. And that's what forms the hump.
Okay.
Sparky looks at this. He said, "What is this, a door threshold?" I said, "No." I said, "I made this. It's homemade." He said, "Well, how long did it take you? All day?" I said, "Yeah, it took me about all day to make this thing." I said, "I ran this thing up like a belt sander, like I'm sharpening a lawnmower blade." So anyway, that's the concept. So
Yeah, that I like it.
what has to happen here The bad thing about this thing, it's, you can't nest the parts. So if this was a flat sheet, you could joggle these parts back and forth and nest them. So when they water jet cut them, you could maximize your material. Since it's got this hump molded in it, basically it has to be right here. It can't be off because it has to be centered on the hump.
Right.
And therefore you can't nest them. But if you take this carbon sheet that's been pre-pregged on this glass, or not, whatever the mold is, so you're going to have spaces in here. So I was going to have the button right here that the bearing goes in that builds the center section up, water jet cut out in these spaces. The other thing you can do, if somebody wants a different size belt crank or hole location, like a push rod, it's no big deal, or a shape, because you can go into the program on the water jet and you can just infinitely change it, because as long as it's based on the hump. So this hump is made for a 4-inch belt crank, but you could take different strips of metal, different widths, and make a smaller belt crank theoretically, because the hump would be closer together.
I just figured out how you can nest them.
Well, let me get to that. But anyway, the other thing is, if you have a sheet, you could lay this sheet up even bigger, because the autoclave will take a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet. I mean, it's like huge. So, or probably more manageable, be 2 by 4 foot. But the thing is, you could have these things, so you could cut bell cranks, your buttons for your bushing support in the center, but then you can also cut your motor mounts out of the same stuff. So when they do a run, it's all out of the same material. It just depends on where they cut it.
Right.
So that's where I'm at on that. This thing here, I'm almost positive it was withstand a good pull test.
I like the disclaimer, almost positive.
Yeah.
Well, he's gonna hang off of
Yeah.
it, so
Well,
that's 200 pounds, so it
I
should
was
be all
going,
right.
I was going to go over to the gymnasium here, and I'm going to start hanging weights off of it, because I'm only 225. So I want to see if I can get it to 300. If I can get to 300, it's going into plane.
I like it.
Nest them, Dan.
Okay.
So you take this here, you're gonna make, let's say 10 of these,
Right.
or whatever. So instead of going after it, doing it and cutting them up, make a casting. So you do one there and then turn it over one there. So you got the half in a cast, and you cast half at a time. You know what I'm saying?
You can cast it, but then you got to make the mold.
No, you're not getting what I'm saying. Okay, you're going to make the mold, a casting of the mold.
Okay.
Just like you do a propeller.
Okay.
But instead of two-sided, you're only going to make it
Yeah.
one-sided with a sheet of glass on the top of that, vacuum bag down. You
Yeah.
put your 6 layers in there,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
cut them out.
I was trying to get away from that as far as extra machining. As soon as they take a mill and they start actually machining the pocket, for the mold, you know what I mean? That's when the price becomes prohibitive.
There's only one hobby, spending money.
So, yeah, but that's where I'm at. Let me find my whiteboard. I'm going to talk to you about something since you're here. I got
It's going to be Carl Rove.
Hey, Bob,
Yeah.
hey, Sparky, is it Monday already?
No.
That's what I said. I said I could come over slow.
I'm going to spend the night here, and I'll be back tomorrow.
You will be back tomorrow. All right.
I'll call you when I get close.
Sounds good to me.
Should be about 3.5, I think you'd have it.
3.5 what?
Hours from here to home.
Yeah, it's not long.
So I cleaned up this shop.
And now he can't find a whiteboard.
No, I can't believe it.
That sounds like somebody else I know.
Yeah.
I know it's around here somewhere.
John is with us right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Sparky went to John's house, helped sell some of his stuff at Brodak, as you probably know. And I said, I'm gonna talk to Barb. I said, I want the stool. So we go over to John's house for the hangout. So how it all started, how I met John was when I retired, I started watching airplane videos and I see John and Sparky. So I start chiming in and
Manny Moan Jack.
yep, there it is. So anyway, I get a hold of John or Sparky and I said, hey, I'm gonna drive to Dayton. I'm gonna spend Saturday with you. So they say, yeah, come on over. So I go over to John's house. And it sort of reminded me of the days when John Davis was living, or Roger Waldman, we'd all get together and, do this stuff. So, everybody knows probably what happened to John. He left us, but I said, Sparky, when you get over there, ask Barb how much she wants for the stool that I sat on when I was talking to John in the basement. And then also, John and I were talking about these wheels. So I call up John. I said, John, he must have had a sweatshop in the basement because John was kicking these things out on a little Chinese lathe. Okay, they're they're really nice. And as you probably already know, it took John forever to do this aluminum because he's cranking this old little junky lathe to make these wheels. So I said, John, I think I got the wheel problem figured out. He said, well, how's that? I said, I figured out a way to make these discs out of carbon fiber. So it's sort of like the bell crank. If you can imagine, instead of shaped like a bell crank, this is shaped round as a disc. So basically you glue these two carbon plates together and the fork, which would be in a circle, that's where your wheels would go. And I said, I got this job at a composite shop. And I said, after about 4 or 5 days, I go out to throw away my wood chips for my project. And I look in the dumpster. It's a big dumpster and it's got about 4 foot of pre-preg scraps in it. So I go back in, I say, hey guys, I'm going to be dumpster diving here. And they started laughing. They said, what are you talking about? I said, well, you got a dumpster full of pre-preg out there. They said, yeah, it's just scrap. So it's funny thinking about it. So anyway, they said, well, you don't have to dumpster dive. They said, we'll put it in a box for you and carry it out of here. I said, okay. So I bring this huge box plus a bag full of pre-preg. And, if it's not in a freezer, it's only good for so long. So I thought, I got to start making some molds, So I came up with a couple molds and I started smashing that pre-preg in between a male and female molds to make a disc, with this like a fork on it. So I said, John, if you're doing these wheels, I said, we could capture the stunt market, I said, you do
Yeah.
the tires, and I said, I'll get you all the wheels out of carbon. And that was the last time I talked to him. And then he was in the hospital and he was gone. So
That
So
was
that's-
that big bag of shit we threw out, Steve. The rock,
Oh, yeah,
rock
okay,
bag.
yeah.
Pre-preg goes bad,
Ah,
turns into rock.
yeah.
The Jarvis from MPI, I asked him why there's no wheels. And Jarvis said, because nobody in China wants to get the dust on them from making these tires. The wheels aren't the problem, the tires are the problem. So he was
huh,
100 pair that John made, and he's trying to get me to make tires.
oh,
No, because they're not going to order 100, they're going to order 1,000 or maybe 2,000 or whatever. Ain't no way I'm doing that.
So, yeah, we don't want to make money. I just wanted to make wheels and Velcros. So, here's my thoughts, Bob. And I remember you saying something, it's got to be assembled in the plane or something. So this is what I'm thinking. Basically, what Bob was talking about is here's your wing. And then of course your bell crank goes here. So what Bob wanted to do, and he can correct me, see this on this lighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob wanted to actually extend the post.
No,
Okay,
that's not me. That was that was Joe Daly.
So let's just say here's your fuselage,
or hunt.
and then your bell crank would be here. And then the post would come through. This is looking at the top view. And then out of this part would be an arm that would stick out.
Right.
Basically, your bell crank and your post would be one piece.
Right.
Okay. So if you take a post, okay, we talked about an 1/8 wire not being enough.
Hmm.
You take an 1/8 wire and you braze a horn here and here, here, and here. Or 1/8 wire. And basically what you're doing is you're making a control horn. So if you look at it from the side view, it'd be like this. And then here's the center. So then your lead outs come this way.
Yeah.
So this would all be one piece. Now, if you bring your bushings all the way down here, okay, you support it here, and then again up here right before it exits the wing, I think it would be stable enough here.
It's just like the thing I showed you, Joe Daly gave me.
Well, yeah.
Well, I was the guy that explained to Joe how to do this.
So basically what we have here is a control horn and then the output arm. So if you have music wire here, okay, how do you get this music wire to get the termination here? So let me show you another thing I came up with. It's basically a control horn with a ball link on it.
Yeah, the output arm needs to have a slot so it can be adjustable and then have a ball link.
And the reason for that is to keep the linear angle of the push rod straight. Is that,
Well, the whole idea of this was I wanted to build one with an output on top and an output on the bottom. The one on top would go directly back to the elevator horn, which would stick up instead of down. So you'd have a straight run, essentially, from the bell crank to the elevator horn. And then have another one off the bottom of the wing going straight back to the flap horn, which would now be facing down. And then you could adjust the push rod length from the bell crank horn to the flap horn. You can actually adjust that, which we don't have that adjustment now. And you'd have all straight runs, and that would ostensibly to make an inline airplane. But since then, I've realized that maybe inline is what I don't want.
well, hasn't most of the people who've tried the inline got away from it like that?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking to Joe about that the other day, and he said I'm going back to, and then it dawned on me, why am I doing this? But I'm just kind of following the leader. I've never had a problem with the tail mounted hire,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of like giving up on the idea.
Right.
I like that bell crank.
Well, yeah, if let's say you ever did revisit the idea, just think of this. This is your wing. So this is the output arms.
Right,
Just think of this horn as your output arms coming out of your wing.
right.
Okay, so if you go from music wire to ball link, you'd have to do it with spacers. So basically, as this comes out of your wing, okay, your ball length would go
Yeah.
over the top of that rod like this.
Yep. And how would you anchor it so you could adjust it? Would you do it with wheel collars either side?
No, I'd probably have a spacer back here, and I'd machine spacers at different lengths. Okay, so I'd machine spacers at different lengths, and then I'd come up here with another spacer with a taper on it. So you'd only capture it in one end. So you could use a wheel collar here or have it threaded, and you could tighten it down.
Yeah, you have different length spacers from the bend to the
Right.
wall link. Yeah, and that
Right.
would give you your ratio. Got it.
So
In talking to Joe though, he said he tried inline airplanes and
yeah,
he didn't like them. And I've had
Yeah.
inline airplanes in the past. My 105 was an inline airplane. I loved it, but then I got thinking about it. Why am I putting all this effort in for something I'm not having a problem with.
Right. I understand.
But the bell crank is a winner.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I mean,
I'm ordering 10 right now.
are you? Okay. So,
You haven't found out how much they are.
no, they're not that.
I don't care how much they are.
So this was a concept back in the day. Basically, it was a music wire, and I took a friction pin that's hollow, and I machined it down, and I put another music wire as an upright. So then the ball link would actually, let's just say this was your elevator horn.
Mhm.
So the ball link would fit over this rod here, and you could adjust it up and down, but you drive your horn right off the ball link at this,
Right.
but
That's an eloquent way of doing
I
it.
see that.
but
It wouldn't work.
well,
It'd bind up.
well, yeah, that was the thing. You'd have to machine it different.
Yeah,
So it would bottom out probably before.
yeah, you
At full throw.
the, well,
Yeah, if you wanted 45 degrees, you'd have to alter it.
yeah.
So,
I mean, it'd work to a point, but it
yeah,
comes to a stop, this ball link got a burr
Well,
on it.
I've kind of like given up on the idea for a little while here. Going back to airplanes that have a higher stabilizer so I can get a straighter run on the push rod.
Yeah.
But the bell crank is still the issue. I got a few of those ones from Honea. He sent me some just recently, and they're great. And they have the shoulder bolts, which I assume you're going to be using those too.
well, what I wanted to do is have a machine pin.
Mm-hmm.
So the machine would have a head on it like a nail.
With a circlip on either side.
Well, no, one side wouldn't, it would just have like a head of a nail. Okay,
Right.
it'd be seen with a pin.
A button. Yeah.
That way it gets rid of one variable. It's,
What holds it in?
well, like he said, a circlip.
Flip on the other side.
Yeah.
But
Or,
in a worst case scenario, you can order those shoulder bolts from McMaster Car.
yeah,
They work great.
yeah, that works too.
They're a little heavier because you have a elastic stop nut on one side.
Right. And I'm not so sure that you couldn't get away with the 256 if you could find a grade 8.
And,
I'll take 440.
I'll take 440.
Would you? Okay.
There's a place to save weight and there's a place not to save weight.
Yeah,
I've learned over the years the control system is not the place to save weight.
yeah,
It's a really nice piece.
yeah. So the other thing
When
is
are they going to be
basically-
available? When are they going to be available?
Well, basically, I mean, if I wanted to, I got the carbon, the resin, plate glass, this, I could lay up a whole strip of these things. Okay.
I'll take a strip.
Okay. So I made this in a.
Give me a bill. I'll look
Okay.
at my mailbox Tuesday morning.
That's what Sparky said. He said, "Why'd you just make one bell crank?" He said, "Why didn't you make the whole thing?" I said, "Well, I wasn't sure if it was going to be,
Yeah, you got to be sure.
right, but I'll send you some and let you look at them at this point."
Well,
But
if
yeah,
you let me look at them, they're going to go on my airplane.
you can help me test them and destruct them.
I'll
test them.
gladly help you. I trust everything you do.
So anyway, that's what I've been doing.
I'll have
I
some
don't know
of
if
your
you
old
follow
horns.
along.
I got some of your old horns from like 15, 20 years ago, and I'm saving them for when I learn how to build an airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're past that point. You know what you're doing.
But those things
But,
are beautiful.
thanks. Brent Williams, he contacted me a couple times. He said, "Dan, are you going to make horns?" I said, "Well, I thought about it, but I don't know, Brent." And I sort of got the feeling that he wanted to do it. And I wanted him to do it. I said, "Brent," I said, "you're smart enough." I said, "You've got the mindset to do this." I said, "You got a full-time job and 2 kids." I said, "There's no better time to jump into the modeler."
Yeah. Well, he showed me that Gumby horn that he has, that universal horn,
Yeah. So anyway, I said, "Go for it, Brent." I said, "You make these horns." I said, "I won't be messing with them." I said, "You just jump in there. I'll help you." So I told him, I'm not saying that I made the best horn, but I at least got him at the starting point. I said, "Here's what you want to do. This is the chrome moly, the 4130, the laser cutting, and all this stuff." And I said, you know, you got send, cut, send. I said, my advice is find somebody locally that you can walk in and talk to and give them your business. I said, it's worth a lot when you can show up with Music Wire and say, this is my go, no go gauge. Here's the tolerances I expect. And I said, they'll give you a good product. And I think that's what he did. And I've heard people that have gotten these horns and they're happy with them.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he's doing them. So yeah, this bell crank thing is a little side gig here.
Let me answer these questions here. How about the new Brodak nylon bell crank? Well, I'm not sure, but I had nylon bell crank break on the Viper.
Yeah.
So I'm not ever going to put them in again.
That's ancient technology.
Yeah, there's new stuff. And how strong would a printed bell crank be? I wouldn't trust it.
Me neither.
Matt Brown lives local. He shows up with a printed bell crank. And it's made out of plastic you'd make a figurine out of. And I said, Matt, I don't know. I said, it all looks pretty good. But here's the thing. Printed bell cranks, I think there's porosity there. Now,
That's layers. It's not-
yeah, I went to a Sampy show. It was in Anaheim, California. It was like 1984, 85. And nobody really knew what 3D printed was. But at a booth there, and we're talking like Raytheon, McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, I mean, all the big wigs are there, aerospace. So they had 3D printed parts, and they had parts that were like helical. So the idea behind 3D printed parts was you can get a shape that you can't machine, like a seashell or something. And it takes a long time to print a part. Well, there was a place in Indianapolis that called Praxair, and they were making metal. I'm not sure that a lot of it is top secret, but they were making metals that were 3D printed, like powders that go into these machines.
Yeah.
So then they take 3D metal part and then they center it, or they not center it, but they run it through a furnace and it would congeal and be one part. So to say you can't 3D print a part, it's sort of like a broad statement. I know it can be done, but probably not on a cost-effective basis.
Not on your home printer.
Yeah, so,
And not inside our budget.
right. And once you get up to where it's working with the certain resins, and it takes an industrial printer at a high temp with carbon, and it's a lot of stuff. But this little thing here, what I came up with, and I thought about this, I know probably for a year or longer. So this is my best case scenario right here. This little belt.
I'm sold on that.
Yeah, I think, and if you pre-preg this and you use the right resins and stuff, and I can't imagine it breaking if it's done right.
I don't think that one will break.
Would you run a 256 bolt through the either side of the center just to make sure that it never delaminates?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna destruction test a bunch of this stuff. I'll take it to the gym and I'll start hanging baller bells off of it until it breaks. I'll start out with 256, 440, and I'll do a whole bunch of iterations.
They're going to think you're pretty strange at the gym.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to sort of do it in a discreet way. Probably like 12 noon when nobody's in there.
Is he working on barbells? No, he's working on bell cranks.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to hog up the whole stream here, but anyway,
hey, we very rarely get to see you, so it's good. Hold that bell crank up close again so Steve can see it real close.
Let me get my Zoom up again. We got 22 watchers. We got good turnout, but not many participants.
that's all right.
Okay, let's do it this way.
Turn it.
Hold on a second. I'll present it to everyone, make it full screen. See, spotlight for
There
everyone.
you go.
All right.
Now flop it towards you 90 degrees. There you go.
Oh,
There's the key.
oh, that is cool.
And it starts out with a plate.
2 pieces of that back to back.
All right.
When can we expect parts? When
You know,
can-
honestly, I mean, I could do this stuff here. I could send you stuff to play with, I could in a week or,
I need 4 of them.
okay. I'll take care of you, Bob.
And let me just send a bill.
So I built this bench, 4 foot by 8 foot torsion box with a plate glass on it, and it's got a 4 foot by 8 foot or 4 by 6 oven underneath it.
Look at this. It's already crapped up. You can't even.
Can I-
Oh, my.
Hey, here-
Look like my
here's
shop.
here's my 4 foot by 8 foot bench.
You got about a foot to work with.
So he says, well, I got the place cleaned up, and he goes over here to this bench here, and it's all crapped up too.
I
You
got
can't.
stuff over here.
Well, the man's working. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
So you inside my
Clean shop is a sign of somebody who's not doing any work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my, look at that.
So
That's a hot box.
Ah,
Big enough for a wing or a fuselage or whatever.
a little bit
Got
bigger than
vacuum
your,
pump.
bigger than your easy bake oven, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see the way this works. Plug it in here. It's got the high tech. It's got the high tech temperature control. See, it's on this dimmer switch.
Oh,
So by experience, I know that that's about 125 degrees when you lock it up, and then you can dim it down, and that'll run you about 100 degrees right there, just on the dim setting.
And then it's got a vacuum pump on this end. Down there, goes into the
Wow.
box.
Just like everybody else's shop, huh?
Yeah, and then a 4x8 sheet of glass on carpet.
Wow.
So yeah, I've got big hopes of getting something done here.
Yeah, sure. It's all crapped up.
That bell crank will sell.
Yeah, I think so.
How much, Dan? $40 a piece?
I make them as cheap as I can make them.
Yeah.
It's one of these things where I'll hire out the pre-preg and the laser cutting, if I do any quantity. And I told the guys at JT Composites, I said, you know what I'd like to do? I'm gonna squeeze by you. I said, I don't know if I can make it work or not. But I took a stunt plane into this place, JT Composites. So you see me wear these shirts, and I wear them because I got them for free. And they gave me a stack of them. I got sweatshirts, collared shirts, t-shirts. They hired me to do stairs, some workbenches, woodworking stuff. I put in a French doors, in front of the lobby, all that kind of stuff. Never did any composite work, but they'd always help me with my questions and stuff. And I told them I brought a stunt plane in, and I set the stunt plane on the floor, and I said, what do you think? And they walking around it, and they go, wow, they really loved it. And I said, you think you can make this out of carbon? They said, oh yeah. I mean, we talked about it. So I sort of got them to where, okay, they're into it, or they agree with my thought process. And I never will forget, I go to the World Championships in Nats, and I got a bag of pre-preg parts I made. And I walk up to Paul Walker, okay, and I show him these parts. And Paul goes like this, he takes this carbon fiber, he says, yeah, he said, yeah, he shook his head, he said, you're not going to like what I'm about ready to tell you. And I started laughing. I said, go ahead. I said, you're not going to hurt my feelings. He said, we talked about this for a long time. I've worked with this stuff my whole life. I know it. And we're talking, people that watching don't know who Paul Walker is. Basically, he's a Boeing engineer. He said, it's too heavy. I said, I know. But one of the things that gave me hope is Doran out there he took material and processes basically that you could control in a home shop. Now, he had some beautiful molds that were made. Now, does he have an airplane that I would build myself? Probably not, because it was his configuration, but I think he was in the ballpark as far as weight, which gave me hope. And another thing I was thinking too, Joe Daly, if you guys don't watch his channel, but get on there and watch some of the stuff he's done. Basically, he's taken 3/4 ounce glass, and then he's put a balsa core in there, and then he's taken more glass and made a shell of his wing and fuselage. So it's on a line of like the Shark or the Yatsenko stuff. But then I showed this stuff to JT, and they started talking about foam in between. So my mind gets working. I'm thinking, if you take a mold, okay, so let's just say, for an example, I'll show you a mold.
The Almoff boys are pretty impressive too, those airplanes. I mean, not the design I like, but
So just pretend this is
Pretty
a
good.
stunt fuselage. Let's just say I take this fuselage mold and I line it with sheet wax. Let's just say I line it with 40 thousandths of sheet wax, or 60, it doesn't matter. And then once I get it lined with sheet wax, I pour another mold or make another mold. So I got a female mold and I got a male mold. They go together, but there's a gap, maybe a 32nd or an 1/8 of an inch. So you'd line this thing up with your glass cloth. You could paint it, you put your glass in there, let it cure. You take your other male mold and you put the fiberglass on it and you let that cure. So you got two skins. You pour the mold, or you pour the expanding foam in there, which is 4 pounds per cubic foot, and you close the two. Well, it closes and you clamp it, and it's got that perfect 1/8 inch gap in there because of the sheet wax that was in there. So basically, you just molded the shape, a perfect shape of, whatever the wing or the stab or the whatever. So that's rattling around in my brain. But anyway, I think Bob gave me some good advice, and I'm taking that right now. He says, stick with the components. Don't worry about the full airplane.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people still like to build their own airplanes. In the United States, we still have to get the build and the model rules satisfied for the nationals.
Exactly.
People will like the hardware components, and you'll sell a lot of them. They're easier to make, and
Yeah, and I think you're right on that. But with that being said, I agree 100% with you, Bob. With that being said, there's something in me that says I'm still going to try this crazy idea.
yeah, you want to satisfy your own soul, but
Yeah.
if you want to make money,
Right. You stick
and,
with
and satisfy a need in the marketplace, bell cranks and control horns right now they're in dire need. They're in
yeah.
dire for good bell crank, good control horn setups.
Yeah. And really, when you start doing a whole airplane, it's a super, super big commitment. Now, one of the things, it's sort of halfway between the two, components and an airplane. When I rolled out those plans at Billy's P-47, I looked at those plans. I'm thinking, it's like a work of art. They're beautiful. I mean, I didn't even want to breathe on them. They're so pretty. Like Sparky said, he took the 3D drawing, he put it on the wall and framed it, But when I looked at that airplane, I thought, man, I got to build an airplane before I ever build an airplane. And what I mean by that, the mold bucks and all this stuff. So the wings are straightforward. I mean, the lost foam method you have, it's just like cut and dried and it's perfect. The fuselage to most people is a stumbling block.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody could buy the fuselage that's molded, that's light, now I'm not talking Billy light, like 53 ounces, but it's something that would get you mid to upper 50s. It's still competitive. I think there's a market for that, just components. And
Yeah.
I was telling Joe Gilbert about that fuselage, and of course he loves scale airplanes, semi-scale. He said, "You have that fuselage out here right now." He said, "I give you $500 for it." I said, well, there's
He's not a
my
builder.
first
You know, he's not a builder per se. He admits
Right.
that, and he needs to get an airplane together.
Yeah.
But having said that, this is great, but do the bell cranks and horns first.
Yeah, yeah, I will. I mean, obviously, I mean, the bell crank, I'm on the right track, I think, so.
I love it. I think it's the answer. I really do.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say I lost sleep over that inline bell crank, and I'll probably make a prototype it.
Having said that, you know, those linen-based phenolic ones that are machined properly, they work too, but you can't get them now.
Right,
You make them, not hard.
yeah,
If you have a milling machine, which I don't have at the moment, I used to have one. You know, I used to work in a machine shop, but not everybody has the equipment to do that. Nor do they want to. They want to purchase the hardware and build an airplane.
right. Yeah, it's like maybe I was telling Sparky today. I said, I looked at a Bali prop and it seemed like it was pretty expensive. And it really wasn't. But I thought, I think I'm gonna build one.
You know, he bought a Falcon prop, and the first thing he did was break it to see what's inside.
Well, a Falcon prop on takeoff, if you hit a blade of grass with it, it's going to break. They're so
Yeah.
fragile.
Hey, I took that Falcon prop and the JT Composites. I said, look at this thing. I said, this is $70. And they rolled that thing around in their fingers and they were shaking their heads. And it's like, and I love taking stuff into them and showing it to them. And I wouldn't ask them a question. I just hand it to them and to look at them, look at it and see the expression on their face and stuff. The JT is Julian and Tony. So Tony, he was from Zip Express. You remember these bikes that were carbon fiber wheels and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Tour de France stuff. So he was involved in the development of that with Lee Sargent. It was the bicycles, and Lee Sargent took off with government contracts and so forth when they're making one-way airplanes now. I think they call them drones.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Tony went on, with Zip and some sporting good stuff. And then eventually he got into the racing stuff. But he's been around a long time and you can show him just about anything. And not only can they tell you how to make it, they can tell you how to improve it or, how it has to be made for the autoclave molds or whatever. But so, yeah, they've been a wealth of knowledge, but the bell crank, the old way, when I'd make a bell crank, it took me 20 minutes to lay it up. And I used to sell them at the lead outs for $25.
But that's what the lead out's going through that needle tube, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So 20 minutes, and then I had to deflash it. I had to make the bushings for it. I had to buy the centered bushing and then whatever. With this deal here, if I pick up the phone and I say, get the mold off the shelf and make me 10 plates, okay, 10 whatever, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
pre-preg them. They don't even have to take them out of the bag. They just bag it, cook it, hand it to me. Now, I take them and I take it out of the bag and I run it over to the water jet cutter.
Like a rack of spare ribs.
Yeah, exactly. So I give it to the water jet cutter and they cut them out. And the neat thing, they can alter the program for whatever. So I don't have any time in it right now. I just have a bill for the pre-preg and the layup, and I have a bill for the water jet. So once I get the water jet parts, then I glue them together, I clamp them, and I put my bushing in there. And then that's pretty much it. Throw the hardware for the pins or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's minimal labor, and this is scalable. 20-minute layup for one bell crank, you can't scale it.
Mm-hmm.
So I could make literally thousands of these things. And I told people at JT, I said, I don't care if it's $1 a part or if it's 50 cents a part profit. I said, I'm going to do it because that's
Well, our little world needs it right now. we're having a hard time getting control system hardware of any kind, especially of these, the caliber that we really need. And this is what I want right there. So we're good.
So Bob, what are you working on?
I got 5 twins under construction. 5. I don't know how that happened.
Hey, I'm
5.
gonna go to the bank and get some money. I'm gonna come out and visit you.
You can come anytime you want, pal. We'll make a twin. You come in and we'll make a twin.
Okay.
I'll get everything together before you get here, and you can walk out with a twin.
Hey,
I'll trade it for 10 bell crags.
Yeah.
I can accidentally build a twin.
Yeah, I know. I think you could accidentally build anything.
Well, Sparky can. He's faster than I am.
Well, he reminds me of Jack Sheeks a lot, you know.
Yeah, except his stuff is at a level that I don't think Jack could achieve.
Jack could, but he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
The Sparky builds quality airplanes. He really, and not to say Jack didn't, but it was a different era, and everybody was doing it at a different level.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we're doing it at I think, a pretty high level.
Well, I talked to your buddy, your painter, Joel, and
Joel.
I think Constantino,
Joel Costantino.
whatever, isn't that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess he's a painter, and he gave me, I'm going to try urethane again.
It's not actually urethane. It's polyester these days.
Yeah, he told me what to get. It's the same shit I get. It's Omni, the cheapest crap you can get. He uses Acme, but Omni and Acme are the same company. So
we're using a lot of De Beer now too, which is a European company owned by Valspar. We're using their colors because 2 fluid ounces do the whole airplane.
Wow.
And I mean opaque.
Yeah.
And it's $400 a quart, but we get like 6 or 7 airplanes out of a quart or more. Incredible.
So De Beer, is it an automotive paint on their level?
Yeah, it's a European automotive paint.
Now, I know in the house renovation or the people that do high-end finish carpentry, there's some European paints that they use on these front doors and stuff that look like a front row finish.
Yeah.
They've got some
pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And it's light. I mean, and he's learning how to really do it lightly too. I mean, when we first were doing it, he thought he was painting a Ford Fender, and kind of hit the trigger a little hard. But over the years, he's learned how to put it on really light.
And I thought he was using some type of SATA gun or something, like using Harbor Freight. So that's what he said. It's a Harbor Freight gun. Okay, great.
He's got a bunch of guns, and he's got a spray booth that you drive into, and to put a big burlap flap comes down over the door. And when he turns on the fan, this like 80, 90-pound burlap flap gets sucked into the room. That's how much suction is on that fan. So when he shoots it, it's out of the room already, And the other thing he taught me was about atomizing. We've all been using pretty small fans in the guns. He's shooting a tip weight box that's 1 inch by 1 inch with a fan that's about 4 feet wide.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it just lays out perfect, So.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of painters on YouTube, and it seemed like those fans were really big.
Yep.
Clear coat, and there's no orange peel.
Nope.
One of my jobs at JT Composites was to help them get their spray booth working. They bought a spray booth, and it was a lot of grunt work. It was like running duct work up there and busting holes in the wall and the fan. But I finally got it finished, and it was amazing how much air that thing would move. And Bill, the guy, says, "Well, what's the first thing you're going to paint in here?" I said, "Probably an airplane." So I don't know if they like that answer or not, but that's what I gave him.
See if I can find a sample of Joel's work. I got some pictures.
See the
I
number here?
don't have the picture I'm really looking for. He did a $200,000 Corvette.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can even find this thing. Give me a minute to find it here. Oops, I got to do this.
This is you right here. And you have 5
That's pretty good.
Take me a minute to find this.
We're doing dueling streams.
Hey, I'm looking at my neighbor here. He's the one that commented, my neighbor.
Yeah.
Looks like a play for the Pacers. I don't know which one he was talking about. One of the things that worried me about a spray booth in a composite shop was they had some release agent that all you had to do is click your fingers and the part would jump off the mold. I mean, they had some stuff in there that was unbelievable. And it has to be, I guess, for an autoclave.
Hmm.
What worried me is if somebody comes in there and starts handling a part and it transfers, and all I could see was nothing but orange peel and pinholes and fish eyes, you know.
Well, if you got WD-40 anywhere in the building, you're going to get
Yeah.
fish eyes. It doesn't
So-
matter if it's spraying or not. If it's in the building, you get fish eyes.
So that was in the back of my mind, you know. And I think some of this release is probably worse than WD-40.
Silicone?
Well, I don't know what it was. It was like magic. But
I found a picture, not the best one, but it'll get
Hold
the.
on a second. Let me present.
I gotta open it.
Why is it jumping?
Okay, now I gotta go down to here, go to share. Share's not turned on.
Oh, hold on. Let's see. Share. There you go.
Give it a try here. This was a 57 two-door sedan resto rod. You did.
wow,
That's Bob Brookins green.
that's beautiful. Yeah.
The guy was going to put all the hardware on himself with the windows in and all that stuff. We just did the paint work, and it's you look at it looks like it's about 40 feet deep. You know,
Mhm.
it's really good. He had this off the frame onto a rotisserie, and did the whole inside. You know, it's all tubed up for slicks and everything. You know, it's an incredible piece of work.
Wow.
Is that a Chevy 57?
Yeah, it's a 57 Chevy two-door sedan. I had one of those actually, years and years and years and years ago.
I had a 4-door. I wish it was a 2-door.
I had a two-door 56 also coupe in bronze and cream. Now you know where I got the bronze from.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you painted it with using that leftover paint you had, huh?
You know, everybody's got a signature, you know. And Bob, I bet you could go to the Nats and you can walk down the line, the flight line, and even if you haven't seen the plane before, you could probably tell who built it, couldn't you?
Yeah, pretty much. Everybody's got a little signature. You know, they got their own signature.
Yeah.
Billy certainly did. You know, and Olgiewski obviously. Fancher had his own style. Walker obviously has his own style. Yeah, it's an individual thing. But when I got my cataract surgery, my color vision was so off that once I finally saw what I was really painting my airplane, I realized where people were busting my chops all the time.
Yeah, I've heard about that. You get the cataracts and you see things you've never seen before.
Unbelievable. I mean, the colors are so vibrant and different than I thought. White was olive drab.
Sit down.
No, I'm good.
Anyway, you can take me off the big screen now. You know what? My ugly puss on there.
We've been on about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You think that's long enough?
Well, I think it's long enough for Sparky because he's been driving all day from Carmichael, Pennsylvania, and I fed him a hamburger. I've already had 3 hamburgers today. I'm getting sort of hungry. You ready for a snack?
We need to go get some of that ice cream.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, if you guys get to Muncie, you gotta get up there to the Frozen Boulder. It's up there on the, what is it, Megalia or something like that?
It's off of Gallier. It's
Yeah.
right across from the Super 8.
you ever been to Ivanhoe's?
No, it's an ice cream
Yeah,
It's
it's
store next to the putting and batting cage.
there's a place
Golf
called Ivanhoe's. It's unbelievable. It's
Uh,
Is that the ice cream place?
northwest of Muncie.
Is that the
Well,
ice cream place that's next to the
Super 8.
pizza place?
Oh.
Pizza and sandwich place? It's like they're adjoining.
Well, we got Ted Drew's in St. Louis, and that's great stuff, but it's expensive. So I went to that place, the batting cage, by the miniature golf in the batting cage, expecting, because it says custard on there, frozen custard. They don't do that anymore. They do ice cream.
Hmm.
And I took Danny there.
Yeah.
We picked out on a giant bowl of that stuff. Brain freeze.
So Sparky tells me at the Nats, he said, I ordered a pair of pants. He said, they're not like they used to be. He said, their sizes are off. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I buy this size I normally buy. And he said, I can't get in them. I said, well, you ever think it's the ice cream and the, what was it, the steakhouse every night?
Yeah. Well, the Levi's now are made in Israel, and they are junk. They are total junk.
Well, they're probably not junk, but they just don't fit you anymore.
No, they're crap. They're made out of. They're not the same Levi's. I'm very disappointed.
That's funny.
Uh,
Well, I appreciate you showing us that bell crank thing there, Dan. That's showing some secret stuff there,
yeah, it's not secrets, there's no secrets, but
But I want some,
one last thing, like Frog, a guy chimed in, he said, can you machine it? Yeah, you could machine it, but then it's a lot of work. It's CNC. If you really take a checklist and you go down of all the things that are positive or negative about a certain manufacturing process, this process with the pre-preg on the plate and the water jet, I think it fits all the bills.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I wanted to go to JT and work, and I knew it wasn't going to be a lifetime career, and they knew that, but I was fortunate enough for them to let me through the door to at least help them with woodworking and correspond with them. The reason I went there, I wanted to see how they did things. I wanted their feedback. And there's an old saying, if you're the smartest person in the room,
Better leave.
you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
So when I showed up at JT Composites, I was the dumbest one in there. And by me being there, I felt like, yeah, it's, I got a lot smarter. So
Steve Frog Martin's on here too.
yeah,
Right there.
so that was the reason. Being retired, it allows me to go to different trim carpentry crews, house builders, cabinet builders, composite shops. And instead of going to college and paying them, I go into these jobs and they pay me. Not much, but it's the wealth of knowledge that I can get from being around people like that are great.
Yeah.
Just as Billy, Bob Hunt, Jack Sheeks, all these people. So I didn't design this bell crank. Basically, I just made it. And the reason why this bell crank came about is because the old way was great, but it didn't work that well with electric motors because of the termination. So Bob Hunt says, now this is what has to happen. And I agreed. So basically, I didn't design this. I made this bell crank, but people out there, if you listen to them, they give you information and then you figure it out. So Bob is the one that sent me down this path, and that's where I'm at. So
Oh, I just copied what I just told you what was being done by Tom Morris was actually the guy that I would give credit to for the yoke idea.
Right.
So,
it's like foam wings. Who is the person that cut foam wings before you, Bob?
Mike Stott and Arnie Stott at Foam Flight, but even before them was a guy named Ed Izzo and Ray Olson. They actually wrote the first article in Model Airplane News in 1964 called Styrofoam, A Giant Step Forward. And that's when I first learned about it. My dad and I read that article about 1 million times, and he said, well, this is nothing. We can do this.
Yeah.
And we set up our own equipment, and I got pretty good at it. And then years later, I was at a demonstration up in Massachusetts, and I was doing 4 demonstrations a day of cutting cord out foam wings. And there was packed house every day. And there was this one guy came every one of these things, and he was nodding his head and smiling through the whole thing. And finally, I went up to him. I said, "I've been watching you back here." I said, "What's your name?" He says, "Oh, I'm Ed Izzo. He's the
Oh.
guy who invented it."
Yeah,
And he said, "You've taken it to another level."
yeah, yeah. But that's the beauty of the hobby. I mean, you got a hold of it and you stuck with it and you just took
Yeah.
it.
Well, we
Yeah,
engineered it for our specific usage. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a
Well, there
pretty
really is
common.
nothing new in anything we do.
Yeah, it really is. It's an easy concept, foam cutting. It's like cutting cheese. I mean, well, pardon the expression. It's like cutting with a little roller cheese cutter.
Yeah, yeah,
Really not that difficult.
yeah. But
But having said that, like anything else, there's technique to all of this. What you're doing, what Sparky's doing, if the concepts are easy, the actual execution takes time and detail and dedication to get it so it's perfect. And you've done that. Your control horn stuff. I often said your control horn stuff it's not control horns, it's jewelry.
yeah, they were one at a time. I told Brent, I said, your horns look good. Just put them on a buffer and you're there.
Yeah. You buffed them up beautiful. I still got a whole bunch of them downstairs. I haven't used them because, like I said, I'm saving them for when I really learn how to build.
I can get you more. So, yeah, um, we'll jump off here. I think Sparky's about
Yeah.
had it. And, man, it was great hanging out with you guys, Steve and Bob and
Yeah, man.
all the rest of you that chimed in here. I think it threw some people off. They saw Sparky here in this garage and me standing here and they got confused.
Yeah.
But I had a great time.
Steve and I thought it was Monday night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wish I could have made it to Brodak, but I'll see you guys at the Nats.
All right. Yeah.
Sparky
that's
will,
great.
Sparky will be there too. He'll make a trip.
Go get some ice cream and have steak and eggs in the morning. And
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Send him
All right,
off.
guys, I really appreciate you coming, and everybody watching.
Yeah.
Be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Ring the bell for notification. That's important. You'll know when these come on. It goes ding.
and join Pampa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Join Pampa. Get involved.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, guys. Good night.
Yeah. See you Monday. Fair winds, tight lines.